Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and I'm really excited about today's topic.
And I'm the resident expert here, ready to get into it.
Awesome. So, I want to start today by asking you, the listener, a question. And I want you to be completely honest with yourself.
Oh, setting a serious tone right out of the gate.
Kind of, yeah. Because think about how many times in the last month you've looked at an AI headline. ChatGPT writing an entire app's code base, or Midjourney winning some major art competition.
Right.
And when you see that, do you feel that pit in your stomach? You know the one.
The existential dread.
Exactly. That gnawing, low-grade dread that just whispers, am I obsolete? Is my entire career path about to just hit a dead end?
Well, if you're feeling that way, you're definitely not alone. I mean, it is essentially the defining anxiety of the 2020s right now.
It really feels like it. And usually when we talk about this, the assumption is that the people who are worried are the ones who don't understand the tech.
Right, the Luddites. The people who can't use a smartphone.
Right. But we have some data today that completely flips that script. We're looking at a really fascinating analysis by Jonathan H. Westover, and he pulls out a statistic that honestly just stopped me in my tracks.
It is a striking number. So Westover cites data showing that 52% of U.S. workers are concerned about AI affecting their job prospects.
So more than half the workforce?
More than half, but the real kicker is when you look at the power users.
The people actually using it.
Exactly. Of the people who are currently using AI in their daily work, the early adopters, the tech-savvy ones, 42% believe it will actually diminish their future opportunities.
That is profound. I mean, think about that. Even the people holding the weapon are worried it's going to misfire and hit them.
Yeah.
It's almost like the more you know about what this stuff can do, the more you realize how easily it could just do your job.
And that fear really stems from the dominant story we've all been told. If you listen to Silicon Valley...
Or even the critics, really.
Right, even the critics. The entire conversation is centered around AGI, artificial general intelligence.
The big buzzword.
The massive buzzword. The narrative is basically that we are building a god in a box. The explicit goal is to create a system that replicates and then surpasses human capability in every single economically valuable way.
Right. And in that story, the human being is just a bottleneck.
A glitch.
Yeah, we're the slow, expensive biological glitch in the system. And the whole point of the technology is just to route around us.
Precisely. It treats human expertise as a commodity, just something to be extracted, codified, and automated away.
But the reason we are doing this deep dive today is because Westover argues that this whole human versus machine thing is a false binary.
It is.
And the mission of our deep dive today is to explore his concept of pro-worker AI. The thesis here is that we can actually consciously choose a different trajectory.
A trajectory where technology expands our capabilities instead of just replacing us.
Right, and this isn't some new age wishful thinking. This actually goes back a long way.
It goes way back. Westover points us to 1960. Yeah, J.C.R. Licklider. He was this visionary computer scientist, and he wrote about what he called human-computer symbiosis.
Human-computer symbiosis.
Right. His whole point way back then was that computers shouldn't think for us. They should be partners. They handle all the rote calculation, the heavy lifting, so that the human mind can basically think as no human brain has ever thought before.
So we've literally had this vision for over 60 years.
Over 60 years.
Yeah.
But Westover's argument is that for the very first time, we actually have the processing power to pull it off.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Symbiosis sounds lovely. It sounds like a great marketing slogan for a tech company. But economically speaking, isn't all technology just productivity? And doesn't productivity usually just mean doing more stuff with fewer people?
That is the most common misconception. We tend to lump all technological progress into one giant bucket.
Right, tech is just tech.
But Westover breaks it down into 5 very specific categories of change. And this is crucial. If you want to understand why your specific job might be safe, or why it might not be, you have to understand the difference between these 5 categories.
Because they're not all created equal.
Not at all.
Okay, let's unpack these, because I think this is really where the rubber meets the road for the listener. Break down the first one for us. It's called labor augmenting.
Right. Labor augmenting. This is the most benign form. It's technology that makes you faster at the core task you already do.
Okay. Give me an example.
The classic example from the source is an electric cable stripper for an electrician.
Sure. So instead of using a standard pocket knife, I use a specialized power tool. I strip the wire in 2 seconds instead of 20.
Exactly. You are objectively more productive. However, and this is a nuance that economists love to fight about, the effect on your wages is actually ambiguous.
Wait, why is it ambiguous? If I'm faster, I can do more jobs. Shouldn't I make more money? Not necessarily. Because think about the market. If every single electrician gets an electric cable stripper, the supply of stripped wire goes up massively across the board.
Oh, I see.
The price of basic electrical work might actually drop. So you might end up having to do more work just to make the exact same amount of money.
Ah, the efficiency trap. You just run faster to stay in the same place.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, how is that different from the second category, which Westover calls capital augmenting? Because to me, a better tool just feels like capital.
It's a subtle distinction. Capital augmenting technology makes the machine itself more efficient, regardless of the human operator.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Instead of giving the electrician a better hand tool, you install a massive, high-efficiency automated loom in a textile factory. The improvement is entirely in the capital stock, not the labor.
So in that scenario, the worker is just a button pusher. The real value is trapped in the machine.
Correct. It increases output, which is fantastic for the factory owner's GDP contribution.
But not for the worker. Right. It doesn't necessarily make the worker more valuable. You're just tending a better beast.
Which leads us nicely to the one that actually keeps everyone up at night. Category 3, automating.
The danger zone.
Yeah.
This is when the machine takes the task completely away from the human. It's not a better cable stripper. It's a literal robot that crawls into the drywall and installs the wiring all by itself.
Which unambiguously reduces the demand for human labor.
Completely. But more importantly, it devalues existing skills.
Right.
If you spent 10 years of your life learning how to fish wire through complex drywall configurations, and a robot can now do it for pennies, your human capital just hit zero.
That is the classic replacement narrative that everyone is terrified of. But then Westover brings up this fourth category, and I honestly struggled with this one a bit. It's called expertise leveling.
Yes.
And on the surface, it sounds like a totally good thing, democratizing knowledge.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. The example he uses is a pulse oximeter.
The little finger clip thing at the doctor's office.
Exactly. In the old days, determining someone's blood oxygen level was a high-skill task.
Yeah.
You needed a doctor or a highly trained specialist lab tech to figure it out.
Right.
Now, you just clip this basic device on a finger, and an entry-level nurse's aide gets the exact same reading instantly.
So it democratizes the skill. It lets a less experienced person do expert-level work. Why is that ever a problem?
Well, it's fantastic for the entry-level worker. It massively boosts their value. But think about it from the other side. What if you were the expert lab tech?
Oh.
You just lost your competitive advantage.
Yeah.
It levels the playing field by pulling the top down and pulling the bottom up.
It creates winners and losers within the same workforce.
Precisely. If I'm the specialist, I'm suddenly competing with everybody.
Okay, so looking at these first four categories, all of them seem to have some pretty serious downsides for at least some workers.
They do.
But Westover says the absolute goal of pro-worker AI is this fifth category, new task creating.
This is the gold standard. This is technology that doesn't just do the old work faster or cheaper. It actually creates demand for brand new human expertise that literally didn't exist before.
Give me an example of that.
The best historical example he gives is the shift to fiber optics.
Okay.
When fiber optics came in, it didn't just automate the old copper wiring. It created a massive brand new need for things like complex installation planning, new network architecture, maintaining intelligent building systems.
It expanded the pie.
Yes, it expanded the entire scope of what humans could do and needed to do.
So the argument here is that we should be intentionally designing AI to do exactly that, to generate new, complex problems for us to solve, rather than just solving the rote problems we already have.
Exactly. We want technology that increases the value of human judgment, rather than rendering human judgment unnecessary.
Okay, I buy the theory. It's a great theory. Ideally, we'd all be doing new, exciting, highly valued tasks.
Right.
But I have to be the skeptic here for a minute.
Please do.
This sounds fantastic in an academic white paper, but is anyone actually doing this in the real world? Because when I look at the financial news, companies seem pretty solely focused on firing people to boost their stock price.
I hear you.
Do we have actual evidence that pro-worker AI works in the wild?
We absolutely do. And what I really appreciate about Westover's analysis is that he doesn't just rely on hypothetical sci-fi scenarios. He points to very real things happening right now.
Okay, let's talk about Schneider Electric then, because that is a totally blue-collar, skilled trade environment. What exactly are they doing?
So Schneider deployed what they call an electrician's assistant. It's
Huh.
based on large language models, kind of like ChatGPT.
Okay.
But, and this is the key distinction, they didn't try to build a robot to replace the electrician. They built a tool to handle the cognitive drudgery.
Cognitive drudge, you mean like filling out paperwork?
Paperwork, yes, but also the research phase. Imagine you're a technician. You're standing in front of a busted 20-year-old industrial HVAC unit.
Sounds stressful.
It is. And you don't know the obscure error code flashing on the screen. In the past, you'd spend hours digging through dusty physical manuals or waiting on hold with support.
Right.
This AI tool takes your inputs, maybe you snap a photo or type a description, and it instantly synthesizes the troubleshooting steps from thousands of obscure manuals.
Okay, so it drastically speeds up the diagnosis.
It reduced their report completion time by 50%.
Wow. 50%.
But here's the critical pro-worker angle. The human being retains the final authority. The AI might say, hey, it's probably the compressor, but the electrician has to use their real-world judgment to verify it safely.
So it accelerates their learning curve without stripping away their decision-making power?
Exactly.
But wait, let me push back on that a little bit. If the AI is telling the rookie electrician exactly what to look for, aren't we just back to category 4? Expertise leveling? Doesn't this eventually mean Schneider doesn't need to pay for a master electrician? They just hire a guy off the street who can read an iPad.
That is absolutely a risk. It's a fair point. But Westover argues that in this specific type of physical work, the sheer complexity of the real world still requires human touch and intuition.
Because the real world is messy.
Very messy.
Yeah.
The AI handles the information retrieval part, which frankly computers are better at anyway. That frees up the human to focus on the physical manipulation and the safety judgments, things the AI literally cannot do.
So it makes the human more efficient at the parts of the job that actually require being human.
Perfectly said.
Okay, that's a fair distinction. Let's look at another case study that feels very different in tone, the Empowerment Companion. This is a tool for custodial workers with disabilities, right?
Yes, specifically in the Pacific Northwest. And I love this example because it so clearly highlights the difference between algorithmic surveillance and algorithmic support.
Because normally when we hear about apps guiding lower-wage workers, our minds instantly go to Amazon.
Right. We immediately think of the Amazon Flex driver getting dinged by an algorithm because they took a 2-minute bathroom break.
Which is algorithmic management designed purely for control.
Exactly. Now, the Empowerment Companion uses very similar underlying technology. It uses computer vision and step-by-step prompting. But the end goal is totally different.
How so?
It's designed to help people who might struggle with memory retention or sequence tracking so they can work autonomously.
How does it actually work in practice, like step by step?
The worker finishes cleaning an area, say a desk. They point a camera at it. The AI analyzes the image and says, great job. Or maybe, hey, you missed a small spot on the left corner.
So it acts like a digital scaffold.
A scaffold is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Without this tool, these specific individuals might not be employable in this role. They'd need a human shadow constantly supervising them.
Which is too expensive.
Right. But with the tool, they can work independently. It actually expands the labor market to include people who were previously excluded.
See, that is incredibly compelling. It's not replacing a worker, it's enabling someone to become a worker.
Yes.
Now, this next one actually shocked me. The government. Since when is the federal government the poster child for cutting-edge, efficient AI adoption?
It sounds like an oxymoron, right? But the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, is a massive success story here.
What was the specific problem they were trying to solve?
Pure volume. The patent examiners were drowning in paperwork. Every time someone submits a new invention, the examiner has to check it against prior art.
Which is basically everything that has ever been invented in history.
Basically, yeah. They have to make sure it's actually unique. And for decades, they relied on old-school keyword searches.
Which seems super flawed. I mean, if I invent a new type of fastener and you only search the word connector, you're going to miss it entirely.
Exactly. Keyword search is dumb. It completely misses context. So the USPTO rolled out a semantic search tool. It's an AI that understands underlying concepts in physics, not just matching text strings.
Okay, and the result wasn't just mass layoffs. Because usually when government gets efficient, budgets get slashed.
No layoffs. By June 2024, 80% of the examiners were using this tool completely voluntarily.
Voluntarily?
Yeah, and the real result was that patent quality skyrocketed. They could suddenly find those obscure needle-in-a-haystack precedents that they absolutely would have missed before.
So they took the efficiency gain and used it to do deeper analysis, rather than just churning through applications faster so they could fire half the staff.
That distinction right there, using efficiency for depth rather than speed, is the core of pro-worker AI.
That seems really crucial. Okay, one last case study, and I think this one is really touching. The delivery drivers in China.
Oh, this is a brilliant example of just removing a very specific barrier.
Yeah.
So in China, food delivery apps are a massive industry.
It's huge.
But hearing-impaired drivers were really struggling. Think about it. Customers constantly want to call you, "Where are you? I'm at the South Gate."
Right.
If you can't hear the phone, you get bad reviews. And the algorithm ruthlessly punishes bad reviews.
It's a vicious cycle. You can't communicate, so you lose money.
So the platform integrated a very simple voice-to-text bridge right into the app. The customer speaks into their phone, the driver reads it on their screen, the driver types a response, and the customer hears a synthesized voice.
It sounds almost too simple.
It is simple, but the data is incredible. It showed that hearing-impaired workers using this tool completely eliminated the income gap between them and hearing drivers.
Wow.
In fact, they actually started outperforming their hearing peers.
Wait, really? Why?
Because once that single communication barrier was gone, their underlying skills, their navigation, their hustle, their work ethic were actually superior.
That is the literal definition of pro-worker. You take a human capability that is blocked by a physical constraint, and you use technology to just quietly remove the constraint.
Precisely.
Okay, so we have the framework. We have undeniable proof that it works in the real world. We clearly have the technology. So why isn't this happening absolutely everywhere?
It is the most frustrating part of the whole analysis.
Why does it feel like we are fighting this massive uphill battle against replacement?
Westover identifies what he calls automation bias. And it's not just one single thing. It's a whole stack of societal and economic incentives pushing us in the wrong direction.
Okay, let's talk about the money first, the tax code.
Oh boy.
You mentioned to me earlier that the U.S. tax code essentially hates human beings. Can you explain the mechanism there? Because honestly, it sounds a little like a conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy at all. It's just accounting. Think about it from a corporate CFO's perspective. If I buy a robot arm or $1 billion enterprise software package, that is a capital expense.
Okay.
I can depreciate that asset over time. I get massive tax write-offs. The government effectively subsidizes my purchase of that machine.
So the robot acts as a tax shield for the company.
Exactly. Now, what happens if I hire you instead?
I get a salary.
You get a salary, and I have to pay payroll taxes. I have to pay into Social Security, Medicare, unemployment insurance. The tax wedge on human labor is heavy. So even if you, the human, and the robot are equally productive on the assembly line, the tax code magically makes the robot significantly cheaper. We are fiscally bribing companies to automate.
That is unbelievable. We are literally using public policy to subsidize our own replacement.
We are. And then on top of that, you add what economists call path dependence.
What's that?
Big tech companies know how to automate. They've been building automation and optimization tools for 20 years. It is their default playbook.
So they just keep doing what they know.
Right. Pivoting to tools that collaborate with humans requires a completely different design philosophy. It's harder.
And harder to measure, I would assume.
Much harder. If a CEO fires 10 people, they can point to the exact cost savings on a spreadsheet during the next quarterly earnings call.
Easy math.
But if they invest in a tool that makes those 10 people 20% more creative and effective, how do you measure that added value on a balance sheet today? It's fuzzy. And Wall Street hates fuzzy.
So we have a tax code that favors bots, a corporate culture that favors easy math, and an ideological obsession with building godlike AGI.
It's a tough combo.
How on earth do we turn this ship around? Westover proposes a blueprint for change. Where does he say we even start?
He argues we need a heavily targeted sector strategy. We can't try to fix the whole economy at once. He says we should focus specifically on healthcare and education.
Why those two specifically? Is it just because they're universally important?
Partly, yes. But economically, they are very unique. They are what he calls artisanal sectors. They rely heavily on high human touch.
Right. You don't really want an iPad holding your hand when you're sick. You want a human nurse who has superpowers.
Exactly. But the other reason is that the government is the primary customer in both of those sectors.
Medicaid, Medicare, public school systems.
Right. The government pays for 43% of all U.S. healthcare and 92% of K-12 education. That gives the public massive leverage.
Because they write the checks.
Yes. They can use procurement basically their shopping list, to set the rules for the market.
How would that work?
The Department of Education could simply say, we will not buy AI systems that are designed to replace teachers, period. We will only buy systems that demonstrate they help teachers customize learning for individual students.
So you use the sheer weight of the government's wallet to force the market to build better tools.
Correct. If the government demands pro-worker AI, the tech companies will pivot and build it, because that's where the money is.
What about on the research side of things?
Westover suggests we really need to shift the funding models. Right now, most venture capital and federal research grants go toward AGI, replacement tech.
Right.
He says we need DARPA-style prize competitions specifically for human augmentation.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Offer a $10 million prize to the engineering team that figures out how to use AI to safely let a paralegal do the complex casework of a senior partner, rather than just building a bot that replaces the paralegal entirely.
Speaking of lawyers and creatives, let's get to the spicy take in this blueprint. Intellectual property. Because this is the exact battleground we're seeing right now in Hollywood with writers, actors, and artists.
It absolutely is. And Westover does not mince words here. He says, we need training data compensation.
Explain that for the listener.
Think about how these massive AI models actually learn. They scrape the internet. They ingest millions of books, articles, code repositories, artwork. They are essentially learning from our collective human expertise.
Right.
And currently, the tech companies are getting all of that raw material for absolutely free.
They strip mine human intelligence to build a machine that they then sell back to us to do our jobs.
That is the cynical but entirely accurate view of the current dynamic. So Westover proposes a system of opt-in defaults and royalties.
How would that function?
If an AI company wants to use your writing or your medical diagnoses or your code to train their model, you should have to explicitly opt in. And if you do, you should be compensated for it.
So if we force companies to actually pay for the training data, two things happen.
Right.
One, the original creators actually get paid for their expertise. But two, the actual cost of automation goes way up.
Exactly. It stops being completely free to build the machine that replaces humans, which might make the CFOs think twice about their spreadsheets.
It puts a literal price tag on human wisdom. I really like that. But there's one last obstacle Westover mentions, and honestly, reading it felt like a total plot twist.
I knew exactly what you're going to say.
He says one of the biggest barriers to pro-worker AI isn't the technology, and it isn't even the greedy corporations. It's the experts themselves.
Yes. This is the occupational licensing paradox. And it's fascinating.
Walk me through this because it's a bit counterintuitive.
Okay, let's say we succeed. We follow the blueprint. We build an amazing pro-worker AI tool that allows a nurse practitioner to diagnose complex, rare diseases with the exact same accuracy as a specialist MD.
That sounds like a massive win for society. Healthcare gets cheaper, faster, and more accessible.
In theory, yes, it's a huge win. But in reality, that scenario is completely illegal right now.
Because of licensing.
Right. State licensing laws explicitly say that only a board-certified MD is legally allowed to make that diagnosis.
So the law itself protects the expert class from competition from the augmented workers below them.
Exactly. For decades, we have built massive legal walls around high-income professions. Doctors, lawyers, architects. And ostensibly, we did it for public safety.
Sure, you don't want a quack doing surgery.
Right. But if AI solves the safety problem, if the tool mathematically proves it makes the nurse practitioner completely safe and accurate, then those laws stop being about safety.
They just become protectionism.
Pure protectionism.
Wow. So to actually reap the economic benefits of pro-worker AI, we might literally have to fight the professional unions and guilds of some of the most wealthy and powerful people in society.
We might. If we truly want to empower the middle skill worker to do high-skill tasks, we have to legally allow them to do those tasks. And the people currently holding those monopolies are not going to give them up without a massive fight.
That is such a fascinating conflict to end on, because it reframes the whole debate. It's not just man versus machine anymore.
It never really is.
It's human versus human, with the machine sitting right in the middle as leverage.
Exactly. It's a battle over who gets to capture the value of the new tool.
So what is the final takeaway here for everyone listening? I think it's that the future isn't written in stone. We are not inevitably destined to be replaced by chatbots.
Not at all.
But avoiding that dystopia requires actual systemic work. It requires overhauling the tax code, fundamentally changing how the government buys tech, and maybe even tearing down some of these old licensing laws to let people actually use these new superpowers.
It really all comes down to a fundamental choice. Do we view human expertise as a bottleneck that needs to be removed from the system? Or do we view it as a precious resource that needs to be cultivated and expanded?
Right.
The technology itself is agnostic. It can do either one. It is entirely up to us to decide which way to point it.
Well said. A huge thanks to Jonathan H. Westover for laying out this framework in the source material. It's given me a ton to think about, and I hope it did for you too. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.